Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach. Yom Revi, Parshas Vayeishev, Shnas Tovshin Ayin Ches, Shiva Tiferes Avigdor. A very fundamental episode in this week's Parsha and the reason why we say it's fundamental, there are fundamental Parshiyos and then there are lessons in the Torah that are not fundamental. Fundamental means lessons that make the difference between Chayim and Maves, life and death. The episode with Yosef Hatzadik, how he was a slave in Mitzrayim, as a young teenager, and he was faced with a challenge, not a one-time shot, but it was a challenge that covered 12 months. Yom b'yoymai, every single day. And the challenge came along with tremendous acts of seduction. His master's wife did extreme behavior to entice Yosef, and not only was there seduction, there was also tremendous threats and attempts to force him and bring great pressure to bear upon him. And Yosef withstood this tremendous test. Now, the reason why it's fundamental is because every human being must face the yeitzer, the arayos, the harah of taiva. And there are two main battles that everybody must endure in some form or fashion. There is the harah of taiva, and there is the harah of gaiva. The harah of taiva has many different levels, but the most powerful challenge is the yeitzer de taiva. This is something that is deeply ingrained, embedded into the physical guf of a person. This is not a yeitzer like other yeitzeras that you need outside enticement. As anyone who faced this and especially if you fell, you know this is something that gets its tentacles, puts its claws in you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in some conscious and unconscious level. Or as I've asked a number of people, how bad is your challenge? And I've been told 25 hours a day, 8 days a week. I said, what do you mean? And a number of people have told me, well, it happens to be there are only 24 hours in a day. But my challenge is above and beyond Zman. It's beyond time. That's a person who knows himself a little bit. The Gemara tells us, Chazal tell us, that Yosef Hatzadik implored HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's amazing at such a young age to have implored HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he said, my father was tested, my Zayda was tested, and I wasn't tested. I'm thinking, what do you mean you weren't tested? You went through tests with your brothers. And Hashem said to him, Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Chayecha, I swear to you, Sha'ani Menasa Oischa Yeitzer Mehem, I will test you more than I will test them. What do you see from here? Hashem says, I will test you more than I will test them. You understand what that means? I don't. More than an Akedah? More than Orkastim? Avram had some serious tests. Yankov Avinu, 20 years living in Gehenna, but his father-in-law getting ripped off on a daily basis, came out, living as a marked man in the crosshairs of somebody who wants to kill you, whose anger is forever. Hashem says your test is going to be harder than their test, greater than anything his father and his Zayda. Now, because people, there's some strange, funny reason, anybody who has seichel knows that this test is overbearing and overwhelming. And very few people talk about it. And that's why the story of Yosef Hatzadik is so fundamental. Because Yosef Hatzadik, Hashem brought him into this world, and he was the individual who paved the way for Klal Yisrael. He was the individual who was our guide in this subject. He was the one who paved the way for Klal Yisrael in Mitzrayim, the worst, the filthiest, abominable place in the world. It was the worst of the worst. And Yosef was sent there alone to pave the way, to go through such a test and such a challenge. The only hope we have, because Yosef Hatzadik came to be Misake and establish Midos in Shemayim, Midos in the spiritual world. He created fortresses. He created castles. He created armor and methodology for us, his kindalach, to be able to withstand this challenge. And that's why we have to study this parsha. We have to learn from Yosef Hatzadik. And the question is how to learn from him, how to derive. People are afraid to go for help, and everybody tries to think that he can do it by himself, which is like a guy curing him, so you can cure yourself faster from heart disease than you can cure yourself from this type. This is the challenge of challenges, and all taivas of mammon and other taivas, achil and all the other taivas come afterwards. They're all secondary to this taiva. And here Chazal tell us, Hashem says this challenge is l'mayla miderech hateva. It's greater than a custom and greater than a kedah. That's the challenge. And the emes says it's such a challenge that most people give up. I know of a great person. I was once talking to a mechanech who deals with a lot of bachrim in the yeshiva, and I tell them that I don't envy his job. And we're talking about how does he deal with bachrim in a high school, going through the challenge of challenges, and everyone is torn apart, some more, some less. You have no idea what it does to bachrim who get stuck in this jail. They get caught in a trap and they can't extricate themselves. They have no one to talk to. So I asked this mechanech, do you deal with this? I said, that's the worst part of the job, of having to deal with young people. And he said to me that the emes is, it used to be overwhelming to me. Till somebody great, he went to speak to somebody who was a great person, a big Baal Avodah, who told him that in today's world, the Kayach Hatuma is so great and so overwhelming, and that in America, Bichlal and Befrat, the power of Tumah is so strong from the spiritual dimension that he should kind of give up in the battle and not attempt to save folks. He said, what do you mean? So he said it, a nusach, it's begeder einis. I'm a little shocked, because that's what Yosef Hatzadik's about. That's what the battle's about. Now the emes is that because the battle is l'mayla miderech hateva, doesn't mean that there's no way of succeeding in this battle. You have to know from the logical standpoint, it is takel l'mayla miderech hateva. But then again, tell yourself that the Gemara says it's l'mayla miderech hateva for any individual to overcome his yeitzer. Ilmole HaKadosh Baruch Hu oizroi, it's not shaykh. Lo yochel. Any yeitzer, it's not shaykh. And could be this is the yeitzer the Gemara is referring to. But since there's a SHLITA in the world, that's our hope. We mentioned to you the arayos in Vayikra that says every single mitzvah that Hashem commanded His holy nation are mitzvahs that an individual could withstand, and he could choose the right path, and he could fulfill those mitzvahs, except for one mitzvah. The mitzvah of Perisha Me'arayos. The mitzvah of going away from arayos. He says it is something that nafshay shel adam michamdosan v'oinsosay aleim. It's something that a man yearns and desires, and he's almost forced to do them. So what's the yeitzer? People see this and they say, okay, forget about it. I give up. And he says that in the pasuk, in the introduction to the parsha of arayos, it says, Ani Hashem Elokeich. I created you. I know what I'm doing, Hashem says. And what's the yeitzer? What's the yeitzer? The first yeitzer is to acknowledge that you're in a battle. See, the yeitzer gets you to think that, you know what, it's not a battle. Some people think I'm weird, maybe I'm a pervert, maybe I'm this, maybe I'm sick, whatever excuses people come up and say, and each guy thinks that my Sahara started earlier, it came earlier, I have a big yeitzer than anybody else. I always tell people, you don't got it bigger than Yosef. Don't worry about it. You don't got it bigger than everyone else. Each guy thinks he's got the biggest one. But what you have to do is learn from Yosef to how to deal with it. What it says in the Torah is as follows. Let's see what Yosef Hatzadik did. Yosef Hatzadik, the Torah teaches us, on that fateful day when no one was home, that Tiferes Avigdor, she grabbed him by his clothing and said, be with me. And what did he do? He left his garment in her hand and he fled and he went outside. He ran outside without his clothes. Hear that? We like to think that maybe he grabbed his gloves or something. Does he grab his clothes? Avigdor. Because, and it's a pella, that Yosef didn't have the koyach to grab his clothes out of her hand. What was she, Superman, super lady? Or was one of these macho people with the big muscles? I mean, what's shot? Yosef Hatzadik was a giborot, something to shake a moisa. He ran. You know why? Not because he couldn't pull his thing off. Because he knew his daddy was a very strong man. He had his daddy's keiches. We all know. He popped that rock off the Pia Bear, his father. Shekeiche Godol. Yosef Hatzadik was a Superman. But he understood that Yosef told us the first step when you're facing this nisayon is don't deal with it, flee it. You have to run from the nisayon the second somebody gets their hands, their claws on you. In the Sifarno it says, Vayonos, Vayeitzer achutza min hacheder pen yigbar alav hayeitzer harah. Now I want to tell you what this yeitzer is, because it's a tremendous yeitzer. The yeitzer harah has a tremendous knowledge of us, much better than we have of him. And what he always tells you is, you know, I want you to beat me. I want you to win me. So let me tell you what we're going to do. We're going to play this game. It's going to call Beat the Yeitzer Harah. So this is how it's going to be played, he says. Yeitzer says, I go first. What's my first move, yeitzer says? He puts a thought in your mind. He puts a blip on your screen. He might see some old picture that you saw, or some old, because thoughts and pictures that a person saw become embedded somewhere in the phone of his head. Big chip, lot of memory, lots of memory. And he pulls up a picture, and he puts it on the screen. And now he says, your move. Look at the picture, think about it. Beat me. And you think about it, and the yeitzer puts the tick-tack on, the clock on, and he goes, tick-tack, tick-tack. Also the yeitzer says, gotcha, I won. Game's over. You know why? Because you have to you have to hit that button, and you got to click the X, and you got to change the screen of your mind within 2 seconds. You got to make vayonos a yeitzer. That's the only yeitzer. If you allow this thought to fester in your mind, to go with this, a guy looks at a picture in a magazine, looks at a picture anywhere on the street, yeitzer says, tick, tack. That's what you always think about. Second he gets you picture, you flash that picture. We know of people who walk around like they have pictures all the time. So they see something, they flash their camera, click. You should know you're doing the same thing. People laugh at those people. You're doing the exact same thing. You're taking pictures all day long. Wherever you see, you're clicking. Some you try to reject, but most of them stick in your mind. The second it sticks in your mind, I got you, since it's that's the key. How long would it take for the grab to close out and run away and run out with his clothes? How long did it take? Another second. 1 second, the game's over. He's got you. The Maral in the Sefer Gurarya writes, he was geyser on himself. What he did, he said, I'm geyser on myself to be misrachek from arayos. B'sheva al taseh. I'm not going to be with her 1 more second. And bekum v'aseh, I'm going to flee. Run. He used the tzaddik gomer. Now, the Arachaim says that the only way that the yeitzer hara of arayos is l'mayla m'derech hateva, and a person be'emes cannot overcome this. Zulas, unless what he's going to do is harchokas beis dvarim. There's 2 things he has to be marchik, and that is he has to take away mirachik the ra'os ha'ayin. If you don't see something, can't get you. And the second thing is the chinas ha'choshev, allowing yourself to think about something. You look, you think, bang bang, you got it. That's what a person has to know. And if a person won't do these 2 things, he says, and a person has no control. So the next time the yeitzer comes to play with you and he says to you, let's play the yeitzer game. It's called beat the yeitzer. Don't you want to get schar? Get a lot of points for this one. You could change it and get a lot of stickers, a lot of, say, what do they call things? What's called? What? Tickets. A lot of tickets you get. And you can change it for lots of good things. All kind of good things. Let's play the game with me. And he says, you can beat me. Let's see who's faster. And puts a nice picture in front of your head. The Rois Hayin, the Choshev. He says, if a person see something, that's the Yisroel that Chaim Volozhin writes in his Keser Rosh, that the yeitzer gets people to be Isaac in the Milchama with the yeitzer over this matter. Many Sfarim. I was told that in the Chassidish Welt, they work on this Inyan, Kedisha, and all kind of things. And the yeitzer loves for you to handle the sugi. Get into the sugi, he says. I love when people learn my sugya. Because he knows, if you're in my sugya, you always play the yeitzer again. And he tells you, you know what, you can make up for all the averis you did, because Toiva Echad B'tzar, Me'elav Shalei B'tzar. One time B'tzar is worth 1,000 times Shalei B'tzar. He says, if you could think of something and beat me, you know what? Yosef Hatzadik. If you can last 3 seconds and then not do the Averi, he says, it convinces you. You'll be Yosef Hatzadik. Go b'derech Yosef, Yosef. You tell him back, my friend, the way to play this game, he says, you must see dasu. This is a game you don't touch. Your father told you, your mother told you, don't play with fire. Children should never play with fire. You get burned. It's not a game. Because a person doesn't realize that he doesn't have a control. And everybody sits there. You ever see this kid sitting there, and you see his daydreaming, spacing out? I'm asking myself, what is this guy thinking about? Is he thinking about a Tiferes? Is there any chance that he's thinking about a Rambam? No. What is the guy thinking about you? Don't tell me. Can't say it in public. It's a known thing. It's a davar pasha. I remember when I was in Shiva in Montreal, way back in the day, some Sharf Yerushalmi Yid, who was known as a Chacham, decided to help a lot of the Bachar. So what did he do? He told each Bachar to get online, come into the room, he's going to give him a bracha, and he's going to give him a little chizuk. The first guy came out, tight-lipped, didn't say nothing. Second guy came out, looked like he was bit by a snake. After a few guys came out, they said, what did he say? What did he say? He said, no, nothing. And he came out, and the Olam, so I went over to one of the guys, and they said, well, tell me seriously, what happened? He said, you don't want to go in there. You don't want to go in there. I said, why not? He said, the man could read your mind like unbelievable. I said, I can also read your mind. He said, yeah, what did he tell me? I said, I'll tell you what he told you. Come here. He told you have big yeitzeras, and you're challenged with the yeitzer of arayos. You were listening? You were listening? The guy was getting upset. I said, no, that's what he told everybody. He said, how do you know? I said, because that's the one thing we all have in common here. We're all teenagers. So what do you drink a cup? What are you talking about? I remember some guys gonna like me. I said, I can do the same shtick. And I was a teenager then. I was only 15. It was a simple thing. You see a Bachar walking around. What are you, guy walking around? Where's he going? What's he thinking? Guy's walking to the store. He's walking to the dormitory. He stopped. We thinking, what are you thinking? Nothing. You wish you were thinking about nothing. A person's mind cannot think about nothing. A person's mind is thinking all the time. And if you don't understand the power of this yeitzer hara, it's going to devour you. It's going to eat you up, chew you up, and spit you out, and tell you never get part from it. A person has to understand that this is what we learn from Yosef Hatzadik. Yosef Hatzadik tells us that you may have some people that get busy in their life. And it says if a person keeps busy, it's mishkach hasovim. It does help when you're busy. But you can have people when they're older. They call it in America, they call it midlife crisis. People get a certain age, and they go through this midlife crisis, and all of a sudden, that's not what happens. What happens is, at some point in their life, they relax a little bit. And when they relax, all of a sudden, Yitzhar says, "Hi, buddy, remember me? I'm your old friend. Let's play the yeitzer game again." And you say, "I'm too old for that game." You say, "Okay, don't play a game. Let's get serious." He says to you, "Let's get serious. Why don't you get yourself one of these iPhones?" Of course not for the wrong reasons. States on that. Have an iPhone. You know what kind of tzaddik you'll be if you have an iPhone and you're not going to do anything? You'll be a Kadosh Hashem. Kadosh Hashem. By me it's a pella how a person's not afraid to walk around with an iPhone is because I know what you're doing, buddy. I know you're not looking for Torah Genesis. You're not looking for Torah anytime. I know you're saying that you're looking at Torah anytime. You may be looking at Torah anytime. Maybe take a peek at it. But you know what? 70% of the internet traffic is total schmutz. 70%. The head of the CIA. This guy got a secure computer. He left his computers and he went out of the CIA. And I mean, they came in to clean up the computer. The computer was packed from beginning to the end with schmutz. What else are they doing? You ever go in the street and see people like looking at this? What's the Schwarzio looking at? The news? How Trump made Yisroel the capital of Israel? What can the Schwarzio care about that? Let's get them on. Only one thing, he doesn't like to read books. He's not intellectual. How many there aren't that many sports games a day, you know, and the guy can't read too many little words. It's all bad pictures. What do you think he's looking at? I went into a Jewish mechanic, and the guy was like glued to his screen. I mean, his head was almost going into the screen. I was afraid to get accident. And I'm watching the guy, and I've seen the guy. I go, also the guy, like this. I said, no, I don't have a gun. I said, what are you watching over there? That must be very interesting. It was really, no. He grabbed his mouse, and he started acting like a rat, and he started pressing the button. He started pressing the button. I said, don't worry about it. I'm not coming back there. I said, don't worry about it. I'm sure it was medical news. So what people don't realize is that it gets you. And if you don't fight this battle, it's going to devour you. And it's going to eat you up. You have to be misrachik from it. The only hope you have is Yosef Hatzadik. That's what you have. And Yosef Hatzadik was willing to suffer b'zaynis. And a person has to figure out, what are the times of the day? What brings him to it? I said, if you go to the store to buy a bottle of soda, sounds innocent, but the Sahara knows what's in that store. He's going to arrange for somebody to be in that store that may arouse your yeitzer, and you'll click pictures. And when you come home from the store, you didn't come home with just a bottle of soda. You came home with a lot more than a Slurpee. And you think it's innocent, but it's not. He's got you. Once he planted that thought in your mind, you come home, you sit down, and then he'll have to play a game with you. The game is over before it started. And people don't realize this. Adults, children, pas pesale, no pas pesale. And if a person understands that Yosef Hatzadik, the schar that he got. Now people always ask me, why do you have to deal with this? Why does Hashem do this to us? What is the function here? What is the purpose of this? Hashem wants me to be a Kaddish. I said, that's not a bad question. Did you ever think, why did Yosef get tested? Why was he sent down to be a slave in the most abominable country of all countries? Chazal tells us there was no land in the world that was ke'ervas Mitzrayim. There was no place worse than that. Why did he go through this? You know why? Because the success, as Rabbi Yerucham writes, the success of a person, the ikar success of a person is when he faces difficult challenges and he overcomes his ratzon. Difficult challenges means my ratzon says, and he yeitzer, and the guy writes a bad. You ever see a guy who wants something badly? They can't control himself. You lose your mind. And Hashem said, I put you in this world, and this is how you succeed. Adam la'amal yulad. The whole battle is winning battles, and facing challenges. And this is a common battle that everybody has to face. And if a person will put, he says, on a scale, all his ma'asim tovim that were outside, and on the second side of the scale, he's going to put one ma'aseh katan, one small action that came with difficulty, but he overcame it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that ma'aseh tov is going to be machriya all the other ma'asim tov. And he says it's a soid gadol, very big soid. Tov, davar echad b'tzar, mimeya berevach. That's what you have to understand. So I tell people that's the purpose of life. Hashem creates the challenge and he says, go to battle. And if you'll do the battle, you'll win. I've seen people win. I once saw a fellow who was Shar Shishim, not Memtes Sharituma. He was Shar Shishim. And I wanted to makar of him. And I realized he was Shar Shishim. I decided it wasn't Negayah. Then I saw in the Sefer, it says in the time of Ikvas the Mashiach, you can get people out from Gehenna even if they're after Memtes. And this fellow was so into it that when I suggested to him, I was learning with him, trying to care of him, when I told him what kind of yeitzer this is, and he has to watch him call, and he has to understand the direction of his battle, he has to refocus his mind to do battle. So he said to me that would Hashem accept a finger or two in exchange? I said, what do you mean? He said, I am willing to cut off a finger or two of mine for Hashem, but Hashem's got to leave me this. I got to have it. I'm thinking to myself, what? Are you crazy? But I had. Wow, that's serious. Serious over here. Dveikis. In the wrong side. And then he slowly but surely started becoming frum. And after a few months of his being frum, I'll never forget, it was Chol HaMoed Sukkos. And he went for a job interview. And he was dressed in his finest. He put a little gel in his hair, and he gelled his hair. He wanted to look good for the interview. Shtari guy. Maybe it was his father's company or something, I don't know. But he went for whatchamacallit, and he went to the interview. I had taken my family out on a Chol HaMoed trip that day. I came back from the trip, and the fellow was in my yard of my house. He ran over to the car and he grabbed me, and he said, "Where were you? Where were you?" I said, "Whoa, take it easy, buddy. I was out with my family." He said, "No, how come you didn't come home sooner?" And the guy was like so agitated. I said, "Excuse me, you want to come down here? What am I doing wrong? Am I offending you? I went out to Chol HaMoed trip." He said, "No, you don't understand. I said, what happened? He says, let's go in the house. We go in the office. I said, what happened? What happened? He said, I went for this interview, and I'm called in, and there's somebody from the other gender who's administering the interviews. And my file is open on the desk, my picture. They're reading my history, where I went to school, where I grew up, my background. And all of a sudden, the interviewer asks me, did you go to such and such a high school? He says, yes. You want to know, I was in your class. And I had a crush on you. The Peter here. See? Eishes Potifa. The Peter. And the guy says, I don't remember you. I remember everybody in my class who was shaykh to the Indian. And she said, no, then I was an ugly duckling. Things changed, I steig. They started schmoozing. And then she turns to him and she says, you want the job? You got it. One condition. Let's go out. When? Right now. Let's go out. I'm stopping interviews. I'll tell them the job's covered. Let's go out. We'll have dinner. Let's go out. We'll have some, what you call it? Let's go out and have fun. So my heart started to beat. I was talking to a guy and telling you it was Shisha. And he said, is there a wash with me? I want to just freshen up a little bit. The guy was fresh like anything. Went out to the bathroom. He said he ran home. He came home, Pashit. He felt like the whole time the Sahara had his hands on his car and was pulling him back. Get back, wrong direction. So I get out of the car and I threw my keys somewhere in the grass. He told me. He said, I'm sitting here and I'm going nuts. And I said, Hashem, if he doesn't come home, I have to go back and you're going to be understanding. It was when I came home, he was so agitated. I told him, you're tzaddik gomer, my friend. You're tzaddik gomer. I said, you realize what Hashem did? You gave you a chance? You're a shar shisha mensch. But the chatoyim that you did was because of lack of knowledge. You thought it was a mitzvah, you weren't frum. Now you became frum. You're recent. It's only a few months you're frum. And now you face such an awesome, awful challenge. And you've been nizar, you've been shaming yourself now for a few months. And now you face Eishes Potifa in her full glory. And you get an offer on the table with a job. With a job. Nope. I told the guy, you're a tzaddik. I told the guy, you want to know when you would have failed? If you would have gone with him. I had another guy who was coming a ger. And the guy was a very fancy schmancy guy. He worked in a company, very powerful fellow. And I told him, how do you deal? He lived down in the boonies. I said, how do you deal with all the people? He says, I won't look at a Goyish girl, not Jewish girl. I only want to marry Jewish. I told the guy, what is it? No yeitzer? I said, you're a Goy. That's what a Goy is. A Goy doesn't have yeitzer. Yeitzer doesn't bother the Goy. Doesn't need the Goy. I think, what? It's a chaval, mamish. You know, go work at the Goy. Yeitzer has no sipuk from that. So I told him like this. I remember warning him. I said, the day you're going to become frum, you become Jewish, you're going to be Megayer, I'm telling you, you're going to experience the yeitzer like you never experienced in your life. That's what I'm telling you. Be careful, I'm warning you. And I used to tell him a number of times. He's like, stop it already, that's not my thing, he used to tell me. I told him, what are you, a freak? What does that mean? That's your thing, how can it be? You're living with oisher, you're living with wealth, you're living with geld. What kind of nonsense is that? I told him, the day you become Jewish, I'm warning you, be very, very careful. And then he became Jewish. I didn't hear from him for about a week. I called him up, he didn't answer my phone. I said, please call me back. Getting a little worried. He calls me back finally, he says, I'm embarrassed. I said, what happened? He said, the day I became a ger, I went back to my office. And I'm going in the elevator. And I meet the shiksa there. And the shiksa says, would you like to have coffee? And I said, yes. And the next thing I know, I was being over all Averis in the Torah. I thought, the day you became a ger, and I warned you. He said, I'm embarrassed. I said, you failed. You failed miserably. I said, welcome to the world of Jews. I said, welcome to the Jewish world. That's what the yeitzer are about, my friend. Now I know you became a real ger. Because the yeitzer started to pay you a visit on the first day. But I warned you. How could you do such a foolish thing? I told this fellow, I said, that guy was a failure. You're a success. Because that guy fell, and then he calls me up. I said, I'm not a priest. I said, if you fall, and then you want absolution, you want mechila, you go to church. Stand in a little box, say, Father, I have sinned. And he says, me too. And he says, Father, I want to ask mechila. He says, yeah, son, you're nimachal, help you mechal, me too. I'm worse than you. Oh, what a great church. Leave the donation in the box and come back next week. Make sure, son. That's the person I said, no. If you remember the Shabbat say, you'll be successful and you'll be a winner. You'll actually overcome and succeed in this battle too.